Simple living isn't about living a boring or empty life. Simple means uncomplicated and not making life any more difficult than it needs to be. And believe me, us humans are really good at doing that. So in this video, I'm going to take you through 12 simple habits that I practice that help to reduce my stress levels and give me more freedom and time to spend on the things that really matter to me. Now, obviously, we're all different and have different needs and priorities in life. So some of the items on this list might not be right for you, and that's okay. Take what works, have a go at the ones you fancy trying out, and discard the rest. So number one is meal planning and batch cooking. So my husband and I tend to rotate between a number of different meals throughout the week. And this wasn't necessarily intentional, but it's just a habit we fell into because it was simple, rather than trying to come up with new meals every single week. Now, some of the meals aren't ones that you can necessarily batch cook, and that's fine, but there are a few that we can batch cook, so you can cook a large amount of it and then spread it out across the week. Now, if you don't mind eating the same dinner multiple times a week, then that's great. I think my limit with this is 3 meals of the same thing, and then after that I need something new. But you could always batch cook and freeze those meals for a later date. Number 2 is rotating the items in my wardrobe. Now, I don't mean a capsule wardrobe because, to be honest, I don't really know what that means. I have a set few items that I wear for work and I rotate those throughout the week. And this helps to stop any kind of stress or anxiety around having to choose an item each day. I know the items that I've got to choose from, so that helps make the decision process even easier. But also outside of work, I tend to gravitate to wearing the same things over and over again. So if I'm honest with myself, I could probably cut down my wardrobe a little bit more, but some of the items I may not necessarily wear all the time, but I will pull them out at different times of the year. Like when we get to winter, or maybe it's a cold evening and I want to wear a thick, snuggly jumper. That's not something I would necessarily wear in the summer, but I have it there for those nights where I want to be cozier. And so maybe it's worth thinking about whether that is the same for you. And if so, are there items that you could remove from your wardrobe so that you have a clearer idea of what your selection is? Number 3 is building a regular morning routine. So my routine for the past 5 or 6 years has been getting up at 5 a.m. to exercise, having a bit of time to sit down and have breakfast, and then get ready for work. Now, I'm not suggesting everybody needs to get up at 5 a.m. because I've seen loads of videos on YouTube recommending that people do that. I don't know if 5 a.m. is a magic number, but for me, I get up at 5 a.m. because I can exercise and get it done at the beginning of the day, because I know that if I waited till the end of the day, I think my motivation level would be lower. So I do it earlier, get it done, and then I can get on with the rest of my day. And because this has been my routine for so many years, I don't really think about it. It's just something I do. So think about any routines or habits that you want to build into your morning, or even not necessarily in your morning, throughout your day. It doesn't mean to say that life has to lack spontaneity or be boring, but having certain routines throughout the day helps reduce something called decision fatigue, where the more options we have, the more choices we have to make, it can get more overwhelming. So if we can streamline that and have a routine so that we don't have to think too much about it, this can help to simplify things a lot. Number 4 is to identify your priorities. I have certain things that are really important for me to do. For example, my exercise routine is really important because this helps my mental health and well-being and helps with my confidence. So because that is a priority for me, I make sure that I do it. I make sure it is a part of my day. You may have different priorities, so think about what your priorities are, what you definitely want to get done each day or throughout the week, because once you're clear on your priorities, your actions will be guided by those priorities. So the things that you need to do, the habits or routines that you need to build, will be guided towards those priorities. Without a clear sense of why you're doing particular things, why you're building habits and routines, you may get lost or you may get overwhelmed with it because you've not got a clear direction that you're working towards. Habit number 5 is to say no more often. I've been a bit of a people pleaser throughout my life, and for many years I would say yes to things even though I didn't want to do them. I don't know if it's an age thing or I've got wiser, maybe a bit of both, but I've noticed as I've got older, I do tend to say no more often. I tend not to commit to things that I really don't want to do, and that feels great. Obviously, we all have obligations, and there are going to be things we have to do in life even though we don't want to do them. But this isn't about that. This is about if you say yes to things in order to please others and your own needs end up getting neglected. So if you get invited to a party and you don't want to go, don't go. If a party isn't really your thing, your way of connecting with people, then don't feel you need to go. But if you do want to maintain social connections with people, perhaps organise something that fits with what you're more comfortable with. So if you're comfortable meeting with people on a one-on-one or a smaller group or in a quiet quieter location. How about that? I'm certainly not a party person. I don't do all the noise and the large crowds of people, but I really enjoy meeting up with friends on a one-on-one to go out walking in nature. I find that really enjoyable. Habit number 6 is to write things down. Again, this might be my age, but I find that I can't hold as much in mind as I used to. And so writing things down makes life so much simpler because I don't need to try and remember it, and I avoid all that stress when I forget something that I really need to do. I keep a spreadsheet of my budget. I write lists for lots of things, whether it's a shopping list or a to-do list of things that need to get done around the house. It makes life so much easier because I know that once I've done everything on the list, I can forget about it. Habit number 7 is not thinking you need to do everything. This is where I draw on the lessons I learned from Greg McKeown's book, Essentialism, which I'll link down in the description. So to me, essentialism is about being more mindful and considered about the things that we do and the things we commit to in life. Whereas minimalism is more about being mindful of the physical objects that we bring into our space and knowing when it's time to let which ones go. So with essentialism, it's about asking yourself, do you really need to do that thing you think you need to do? If you're feeling overwhelmed, what I recommend doing is writing down everything that you've got to do and looking at each of the tasks, thinking about, do you have to do that particular task or could it be delegated to somebody else? Does that task need to be done right now or could you postpone it for another time? Could some of the tasks actually be crossed off because you don't actually need to do them at all? Habit number 8 is to get out in nature. I will never stop recommending getting out in nature because for me, it's so good for my mental well-being. It just helps me to step back from problems that I'm thinking through and put them into perspective. Getting out in nature really helps me to connect back with who I am, I guess, because we're all part of nature. It's where we come from. And so there's something for me about getting back to that connection, which just helps to put things in perspective and stops me getting so caught up in the small stuff that I really don't need to worry about. Let me know down in the comments if there are things that you do that help to simplify your life. I'd love to hear what you do as well. So habit number 9 is to declutter the things that you don't need. When my husband and I decided that we were going to move, and the move was going to be to a smaller house, we realized that there was going to be over 10 years worth of stuff that we needed to declutter. The decluttering process was really helpful because it made me realize that I didn't need as much stuff as I thought to be happy in life. And in fact, having all of this stuff just sitting on shelves and not being used was actually making me feel anxious because every time I looked at it, I felt that I needed to use it, but that deep down I knew I wasn't. And so being able to give that stuff away to charity and knowing that somebody else was going to get far more use out of it, that made me feel really good as well. Habit number 10 is to declutter your digital space. So just as physical clutter can affect us psychologically, so can digital clutter. For example, having loads of emails come into our inbox or lots of social media notifications pinging on your phone. So if you find that you're spending a lot of time on your phone and you want to reduce this, perhaps it would be helpful to uninstall the social media apps on your phone so that you have to access them on your computer. I've done this, and although I do still access the social media apps on my laptop, it takes more effort for me to do that, so I don't spend as much time on them. Whereas when the notifications are showing up on my phone, it's far easier to just tap into the app and start scrolling. Another idea might be to unsubscribe from all those email newsletters you subscribe to. Perhaps if you were a first-time customer for a retailer and you got a discount if you subscribed. What I found is that I kept deleting these newsletters when they came in, when really what I needed to do was unsubscribe so that I stopped getting the emails altogether. And they don't make it very easy for you to unsubscribe. It takes effort, doesn't it? You have to go all the way down to the bottom of the email and there's a tiny unsubscribe link, usually in a very faint colour. You really have to look for it. But I think it's worth the effort. I've done this and my inbox is far less cluttered and I have far fewer emails that I have to deal with. Habit number 11 is to purchase and consume more mindfully. I've done a lot of impulse buying over the years, and even now the marketing tactics can catch me out, or I can get pulled into wanting something which I don't really need. If something is on sale or it's about to go out of stock, this can induce a bit of fear of missing out in me, and I tend to get a strong urge to buy this thing before even asking myself if I'm really going to get use out of it. And it's not about never getting affected by these marketing tactics, because they are designed to pull us in. We are consumers and these marketing tactics are playing into our psychology. The key is to notice when those urges are coming up and then taking a step back and giving yourself time to have a proper think about whether you need the thing that you're looking at. It might be that you put it in your save for later or save it in your basket and then come back to it a week later and see if you feel the same. Habit number 12 is to build systems rather than focusing on goals. And this comes from one of my favorite self-improvement books ever, Atomic Habits by James Clear, and I'll link to that down in the description. This doesn't mean that it's not important to have goals, but often we become so focused on the goal that we don't really think about what we need to do to get to that goal. So what James Clear recommends is building systems that we implement on a regular basis over a long period of time, and that will help us to move closer to our goal. For example, if you've just done a big declutter and you want your home to remain clutter-free, think about what systems you'll need to put in place to help you to achieve this goal. So systems might be things like tidying up as you go along, decluttering daily or weekly, adopting a one-in, one-out policy if you're buying a new item of clothing. When you've got your systems set up and running, the overall goal will take care of itself. And staying on the topic of decluttering, if you'd like to find out the 10 lessons I learned from decluttering over 10 years worth of stuff, then check out the video that's on the screen now. Take good care, and I'll see you again soon.